Good evening and welcome back to a joint meeting of the Burbank City Council and the Parking Authority on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. Today's study session item is an update on the new Library Civic Center project. I welcome Eric Lashley, Library Service Director, to please present the report. Welcome, Mr. Lashley. Thanks for being here tonight.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Eric Lashley, Library Services Director. I'm so excited to be here today to give you an update on the new Library Civic Center project. I'll be joined by Houston Drum from Mocha Services, our project management firm we hired to help us with this project. The new Library Civic Center project will be a generational project. We are building this for future generations of Burbank residents. The project will be transformational in terms of improving the quality of life for Burbank residents, and it will also help transform the downtown. Our goal is to make this a world-class facility and a destination for the region, a place that is welcoming and inclusive for all our residents and visitors. It'll be world-class but uniquely Burbank, sophisticated with small-town charm, kind of like me. You're listening, it's awesome. I often start my presentations to the community by stating libraries are not about books, libraries are about people. Great libraries build community. I know that we've received a number of emails from the public about removing the housing element. The original 2022 housing element of the Burbank 2013 general plan contemplated housing on the same block as the future Library Civic Center. However, due to market forces, a public-private partnership, or P3, is no longer being considered as part of this project. The downtown-specific plan may list the current Central Library as a future housing site. We'll be glad to address any housing questions related to this project after the presentation. I want to thank my staff for doing mind-building, soul-affirming, and life-saving work every day. Currently at the Central Library, we're doing this work in a facility that has provided great service to our community since 1963, but is inadequate for 2026. And speaking of 1963, if we could start the presentation. For the young folks in the audience, this is a touch-tone phone, which was commercially available in 1963, the same year that our current library was built. This phone, you could actually talk on it, right? And the library in 1963 was very book-centric. I bet everybody walked into the chambers today with a phone. But the phone that you see today is so smart, it does your taxes. It does everything, email, texting. You do everything but talk on it. So what our challenge is to build a library that is like a smartphone, where we do programming, we have social services, wonderful things, but our challenge is actually do a smartphone that doesn't exist today. So the library that we're talking about doesn't exist. It's going to be so flexible and do such wonderful things. So after my phone demonstration, how do we come up with a generational and transformational project for the community of Burbank? The project has three components. There's parking. We're looking at a parking garage with 310 stalls, a building of 97,000 square feet approximately with a library, and also the finance department and management services. We're also looking at open space of about 43,000 square feet. The project site is right across the street from the current library, where there is currently a Wells Fargo on the corner of Orange Grove and Glen Oaks, and the ASB building, which is on the corner of 3rd and Olive. We're looking at building a 4-story building on that site, parking garage at Orange Grove and Glen Oaks, library and city offices at Glen Oaks and Olive, and then an open space at 3rd and Olive. We're looking at building a 4-story facility. On the Glen Oaks side, the first and second floor would be shared space, which is going to be conference rooms, meeting rooms, a large auditorium that can be used by the city and the community. The third and fourth floor on that side, on the Glen Oaks side, will be city offices. It is divided by a large lobby, and then on the open space side, or the plaza side, would be the library, 3 stories, with a shared space on the top, 4th floor, and a rooftop event space. We're looking at having 3 major entrances to the facility, one off of the parking garage, one off of Olive, and one off of the plaza. The first level will have, again, a lobby experience where there would be public art exhibits, a grand staircase where it could be used as seating, or it could be used for performing arts. So you could have a concert or something right there in the lobby. We're looking at having a public art experience in the lobby and outside. You'll hear me talk about inside, outside, how the inside and the outside of the library will be working together. So public art will be intentional and not an afterthought. Cafe experience, we want on the first floor to have a cafe, which serves not only, again, the inside of the library, but also the outside plaza. It's here in this drawing, it shows where CSB is in the red tiara and how close the cafe could be, where we could have, again, festivals, library on the right, and a parking garage on the left. We want it to be very transparent, so the first floor, most of our adult materials will be on the first floor. They'll have lower shelves. We want to have good lines of sight for security, and we want to have a good view into the plaza. Large flexible auditorium so we can have performing arts, visiting author events, our story time, or other large community events could be held at the library. The second floor would be mostly our children's section on the library, but on the other side of near our Glen Oaks would also be meeting spaces. So the second floor would be, again, mostly our children's and teen space, and we also have an outdoor rooftop over the cafe. Children's area will have a maker space, play area, both inside and outside, and then places where kids can just tuck away and just enjoy their time at the library. Teen space will have multiple functions, a place for kids to study, to hang out in a lounge, or to play and just hang out with their friends. The third level will have the first, on the Glen Oaks side, the first city department, either a finance or management services, the lobby, and then you see the third floor would be our administrative offices and our creative space. The creative space will have maker spaces, high tech, like our media lab, and also low tech for arts and crafts. It will have a co-working area. It will have sound booths and a recording studio. We're trying to, again, create a space where people who are self-employed can work, and especially those in the entertainment industry. Fourth level will be, again, on the Glen Oaks side, city offices, either finance or management services. And then we have this shared space and rooftop space. Again, this space can be used by the city, the library, or it could be rented out for events. So we're looking at, again, having an indoor space on that rooftop and then an outdoor space. We would love to, again, take advantage of the view to City Hall, which is right now obscured by the ASB building. So looking at the open space, there is a 23-foot drop from Glen Oaks to 3rd. So we will probably have to terrace this space. So we're looking at having it have 4 different functions or function in one space. One is the library deck. Then there's a space for a farmer's market or a market space, a lawn or plaza. So the library deck, again, would work with the coffee shop or an extension of library programming. The market space would be, again, a flexible space. This is looking towards CSB, where you could have farmer's market or other types of market in that space. Having a lawn where you can do concerts or movie nights. In a plaza for larger events, and then there's a Christmas tree, so if you want to do the Christmas tree lighting in the plaza, you could do it there. We're also looking at having a paseo experience. One of the challenges of this site is the parking garage will feed right into the library, so our back door, which is where we're going to be also getting deliveries, will be our front door. And so we want to make sure that the parking garage looks well and works well with the entrance. So how did we get there from here? How did we get here? So Mocha Services is our project management firm, and they have subcontractors, HR&A advisors for our financing, Durham Consulting for our cost estimates, the Robert Group for our community engagement, and Agency Artifact for landscaping, and Farnsworth Group for commissioning. This is how many community engagement events we've had since October. So we've done a lot of community workshops, community pop-up events, community focus groups, and then going to boards and commissions and other city organizations. We've had 525 visitors at our community workshops, 12 guided tours of our existing central library. We had over 6,200 people visit our pop-up and focus groups. And we had 6,700 people visit our website, which is in English, Armenian, and in Spanish. The participants, which I'm really proud of, 28% are teens or young adults, 42% adults, 30% seniors, and I'm very, again, proud with our efforts to have 11% disabled. What have we heard from the community? Most important existing programs are our tech and digital skills, programming for adults, programming for kids and families, and career and job support. Most important existing amenities, computer, Wi-Fi, hotspot printing, e-library, and digital materials. Most important future programs for the library, community events, and arts and craft classes. Most important future programs for open space, a farmer's market, special fairs and markets, festivals, and cultural events. Most important future amenities for the library, makerspace, cafe, and performance space. Most important future amenities for the open space, seating and picnic area, shade trees, and performance space. Other ideas that the community came up with, career fairs, kitchen for cooking classes, using recipes, native plant, using, again, native plants, bike parking, and bike repair workshops. What we heard from staff, so we did stakeholder interviews and surveys with the library staff, management services, and finance. Library, definition of a changing library is, again, a gathering space, a learning space, and a community incubator. Thinking about programs and events, which types are the hardest to support in the current library? Large community events, outdoor events, or small group meetings. What do you want most in open space that, to feel like for the community? A welcoming green space to gather, outdoor extension of the library, art and culture expression, safe and accessible retreat. What we learned from city leadership, we did a vision workshop with the city leadership, and we came up with 4 guiding principles: community, flexible, beautiful, and safety. Community, we wanted to always keep the community in forefront in our mind. We want it to be a community gathering place, both the inside of the library and the outside plaza. Flexible, we know that this is a generational project. It needs to be flexible so that it lasts 50, 70 years, which means that we need to have places that can move around, the shelving with casters, having book lockers so that people can have 24/7 access to materials. Beautiful, it needs to be beautiful inside and outside. We want the public art to be very intentional. We want people to be very proud of this library. Safety, if it's not safe, people won't come. So it's got to be safe and secure, clean. We want to use even landscaping to protect, especially children playing in the plaza, from the street. We're concerned about olive, and so using landscaping to create a safe barrier is something we're thinking about. Project delivery. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Houston Drum.
Good evening, council members. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's really been an honor to get to work with the city, with Eric and the rest of the directors on this project. We wanted to talk a little bit about where we're at and what the timeline of the project is going to be. So we started our work as the project management team back in August. We have been working diligently with the library team through community engagement, through understanding all the needs of the project. defining the project in terms of how big, how much, and what's the schedule going to look like. And then we've been working with financial services on exactly how the project is going to be funded and financed. We are anticipating a release of an RFQ for the progressive design build teams to be in May of this year, and hopefully have the team under contract by fall time. In which case we would then start the design phase and then eventually construction. We're aiming for construction to break ground next summer and have the completion and public opening in the springtime of 2029. To show a little bit more detail in terms of the project activities, you can see we've all been quite busy. A number of community engagement workshops, both major events held at the library as well as going out into the public for pop-up engagements. Simultaneously, interviewing staff. We've talked to every staff in the library and interviewed every staff through digital surveys or in-person interviews to understand what the needs of every space in the building will be and how we need to, and the requirements for the space and how they'll function. We've also been taking that information and developing a space program so that we can understand the size of the project and therefore understand how much it's going to cost by doing test fits on the site and understanding the best place for site planning, where should parking go, where should the library go, et cetera. And finally, we've been working with the planning department and city staff to update the entitlement to the original plan development that was developed back in 2003 for the block, which is well underway at the moment. So here we are today, the City Council workshop in March, and again, we have a few community town hall workshops coming up where we'll begin to showcase some of the information we're sharing today and get more feedback leading up to the RFQ release in May. To summarize the stats of the project, as Eric said, the library and city office building is about 97,500 square feet. Parking structure accommodating 310 stalls. We worked with the transportation department to do a parking demand study and came up with the 310 stalls based on existing demand within the city, replacing the stalls here on the CSB block, and then the demand for the new library. The open space, the primary open space is about an acre, and there's about another 40,000 square feet of ancillary site work between the buildings, sidewalks, et cetera. As had been introduced a little over about a couple of years ago now, the project is going to be delivered through a contract method called Progressive Design Build, which will have the architect contracted under the contractor, which is very advantageous for the city in terms of both shifting risk to the design build team, but also the speed at which the team can move is very fast, as you all have seen with the airport delivery project. We are estimating that the design build contract is $155 million for the project, and the total project cost, including owner soft costs, is about $185 to $190 million. Again, the schedule that we anticipate design starting this fall, what we call the pre-GMP or the pre-guaranteed maximum price phase. We'll be working closely with the design build team to design the project together and arrive at a guaranteed maximum price, sign the construction contract. We're targeting summer of next year, and then entering into the construction agreement, which we expect to last about 21 months. To give a little bit more information on what we mean by the design build contract. So there are the hard construction costs, which are the actual physical building, the contractor's markups, and typically in a project like this, there will hold some design contingency through the process as we begin to define things as the design develops. And we also include because the architect is under the contractor, we include the professional services fees for the architect, their engineers, and other sub-consultants, as well as the pre-construction fee for the contractor. And so those two entities make up that $155 million design build contract. The owner project soft costs, that includes the project management team, some contingency on the owner side, just in case there are overruns. It's testing and inspection fees, plan checks, surveys, utility connections, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. relocation and moving cost. We have the Public Arts Fund, and then other costs as they arise if something unexpected happens. And so just to summarize, we've developed this chart which helps everybody understand how it's breaking down by component. The parking is approximately 13% of the total budget at about 20.6 million. The building is 108.5 at 70% of the contract, and then the site work is estimated to be about 25.9 million and 16.7% of the contract. And then that amounts to the 155 million with the 30 to 35 million of anticipated additional owner costs. And that's how we arrived at the 185 to 190 million. With that, I'll hand it back to Eric.
Yeah, I want to thank all of the directors, especially Jen and Betsy and their staff from Finance and Management Services for working through this. Damian Skinner and his team and City Manager's Office, City Attorney's Office. This has been a team effort, and I also want to thank them ahead of time because we've only cracked the beginning of this project, but it's been a great team effort, and I really appreciate it. So I wanted to make sure I thank them. And with that, we'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Right. Thank you so much for the presentation. Council, do you have any questions, discussion? Councilmember Anthony, you want to go first?
Well, thank you for this. This is obviously a big project, long-term project. I just wanted to put a little bug in your ear. On slide 21, we talk about special programs. I see images of podcasters and 3D printing and some music stuff. We have a very robust animation industry in Burbank, and there's been requests to have specific, the big tablets that animators draw on. I'd love to see some of that included. I think we could potentially be that hub for new and aspiring animators to work, to get the real good stuff to work on.
I hear that from my daughter, who's an animator every day. So.
There you go. So she knows. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I just had a couple questions about ingress and egress and size of the buildings. The parking structure, how are we getting in and out of it?
I'll let Houston talk that. We've been actually meeting with the fire and planning and streets.
So we are actually working with the Public Works Department and the Planning Department right now. We've hired a traffic consultant to study the ingress and egress, particularly noting that the fire department is right across the street, and we want to make sure we don't interrupt any of their operations. So we've met with the fire chief, understood his concerns, and so we should have some results from that study within the next few weeks, and then we'll begin to better understand how the parking is going to circulate on site.
Okay, so at this point, nothing.
Nothing yet.
Okay, and then how many stories is the parking structure versus the library itself?
It's looking to be that the library is 4 stories. The typical floor in a library is somewhere between 14 and 15 feet tall. So the building will be a little over 60 feet tall, most likely including some rooftop equipment. The parking garage floors are a lot lower. It's looking to be 4 levels of parking, but that's including parking on the roof level. So the parking garage is about 45 feet tall.
Okay.
40 to 45 feet tall.
And then it was mentioned that there's going to be, the entrance to the library is going to be off the parking garage, or is there going to be 2 entrances, one off of Olive, Glen Oaks?
And then Plaza.
And where's the main entrance, like the grand entrance?
Right, so that was one of the immediate challenges that we learned when we started working with everybody on the project, that it's really not one building. You have 3 departments in one building. And so to contend with that, we worked with Eric and Jennifer and Betsy to develop the idea of this shared entry lobby, much like a multi-tenant office building. And in the sense that you have one space where everybody can enter and then go to their separate departments. So we have that shared space has an entry off of Olive as well as the parking structure, so it connects all the way through the building. And then there would be a main entry to the library also off the plaza, so that there would actually be an entry from the lobby and the plaza for the library itself.
And then as far as the open space, is that going to be city property, private property, where we control that space?
City property that we control.
Okay. And then the distance between the library and the parking garage is how far?
Right now, it's about 60 feet from the face of the building to the parking garage. That will get much more fine-tuned when the actual architect comes on board and begins designing through it. But from a planning purpose, we've spaced it 60 feet. So it's enough to fit a fire truck through.
And we're not using that space for anything like activities, or it's just, right? It's not usable space.
No, the only issue is that that is our back door, so we will have to have deliveries there. So it'll be used for that, but we're concerned about safety because that's where people will cross from the parking garage to the library. So there's some concerns there, but it's not going to be used for like activities or anything like that, like doing a children's program or anything like that.
And is there going to be an entrance off of Glen Oaks from that space?
Probably for delivery, but
Delivery.
again, that's to be determined.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out, is the deliveries coming through the parking garage?
Right. Or it may come off of Orange Grove, and there's an alley there that we may use. At some point, we do have to have a place for deliveries, and that seems to be the most natural side of the building to do that.
Yeah, that was just kind of what I was thinking. Depending on curb cuts and how you figure that out, it's going to be important so you don't back up traffic on Glen Oaks.
Exactly.
And what are we doing with sidewalks as far as how are they going to stay the same? Are we going to make them more grand?
The probably, I'm assuming because of all the curb cuts that are currently on Olive, they're going to have to change. Because right now, they're curb cuts to go into the parking lot that exist, which won't exist. So we'll probably have to at least redo the sidewalks on Olive.
Got it. Okay. Great. Those are my questions. Thank you. I look forward to seeing the rest of it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Vice Mayor, do you want to?
Well, thank you for the presentation, and I do also want to acknowledge your transparency throughout the whole project, and all is available, information is available for everyone, the amount of community meetings that you've held. I think it's very important for our community to weigh in on the project that, like you said, is going to last 50, 60 years, a lot longer than all of us be here in the room. I do have 3 questions. One is in regards to all this information that you have and the pictures that you have. Is this going to be available for the public to see online under the project itself so they can?
Yep. So tomorrow, we have a website, thank you for mentioning this, newburbanklibrary.com.
Okay.
So this presentation will be on that website tomorrow, as well as we'll do a link of the video for this.
Okay, great. My second question, and I probably just got overlooked, maybe not, but as far as, I know you mentioned on here the amount of money that's going to be spent on the library, and I'm trying to look, I think is it slide number 64 was the last one. Can you just briefly let us know where's $186 million coming from? And I see the finance.
I see the finance director making their way.
Just I want to make
Perfect
sure that we
timing.
have that money.
I think she's actually leaving the building.
In the budget. She felt that the question's coming up.
Good evening, Jennifer Becker with Financial Services. We had a feeling that question might come up at some point along the way in the presentation. So in 2018, the voters approved Measure P, which was that additional 0.75 transactions and use tax that went into effect. And what the voters also told us is that they wanted half of those funds to go into city infrastructure. So since 2018, that's where those dollars have been going, and they've been doing great things like improving our street paving program and upgrading our city facilities and all sort of the nuts and bolts and the infrastructure repair type things that we've been behind on for a lot of years. But also during that time, we've been planning for the funding of some of these bigger projects, and the library isn't the only one. You'll see some other projects come to fruition when we present our capital improvement plan as part of the budget this year. So the soft costs, or the costs leading up to construction, we're funding with cash through Measure P and other sources like development impact fees that are dedicated to the library. And the hard costs, the construction costs, will be funding through issuing a bond. And the great thing about Measure P is it's a steady source of revenue. We are able to use that future revenue to pay the debt service on the bonds so that we're not burdening the general fund with future debt. And this is something we've been planning for a long time as well. The increasing our reserves, right? The not having any other general city debt. It's sort of like building your credit rating so that when we do a bond issue, we can get the most favorable product possible. So that's what we're looking to do. Capital projects of this scale aren't really possible to be funded with just cash. It's just like buying a house, right? You do at some point have to use that debt. Otherwise, if you're saving up cash, by the time you actually can afford the library costs will have ballooned into something different. So a combination of city cash and debt, and we're, looking forward to bringing more detail about that as the project moves along.
Ms. Becker, can you also talk about the $10 million grant that we received from the state, in addition to some other grants, in addition to potentially, once we do relocate the library, there is potential for a land lease and money there, along with housing opportunities and things like that. So there could be some win-wins there.
Of course, I completely forgot the grant that got buried in that as well. So we have a $10 million, the Building Forward grant, I believe that's what it's called. Another $3 million federal, was that the federal appropriation that we just received this year? Between now and the time we break ground, and even after that, we'll continue pursuing one-time grants. And every time we do that, it'll bring down the amount that we need to borrow for this project. So we can easily switch that out. And then, of course, in the future, as we develop the site of the old library, there'll be some opportunities to bring in some development that could lease the land, provide money back into the infrastructure fund to then sort of reimburse ourselves for our debt costs and maybe fund the next big project for Burbank.
Thank you. Is there time limit on the bond? Like how many years do we have the bond, or you have it open until it's paid off, or how does that work?
So that has yet to be determined.
Okay.
But typically you wouldn't issue a bond for longer than the life of the project, no different than a car or a house. So it would probably be in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 years, and we would most likely look at doing something that's a level payment. So even as revenues continue to grow, our payment would remain the same. So we can sort of re-up with those infrastructure funds over the years.
Okay, thank you. That's the finance question. My other question, we received a few emails in regards to the housing that perhaps the perception has been completely eliminated. I know it's not being talked about tonight or proposed with the project. So I think there might be some misinformation out there that we're eliminating the housing from the project. Can you talk to us about where is the housing project? What are we looking at in the future? And I know the city manager can weigh in as well.
I think
He wants to.
Fred's going to come up and answer that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Fred Ramirez, Assistant Director in Planning. So the Civic Center Library project is occurring within a larger planning effort that we're undertaking, the specific plan. So we've been looking at different concepts and looking at locations throughout the downtown for housing, including on city-owned lots. So there was some discussion, which I think helped out in providing a response, and that is that even though initially we were looking at a concept of having housing on this lot, for all the reasons that Eric has pointed out as far as the economics and kind of the overall concept of the project, we have other lots that are city-owned in the immediate vicinity that create and retain those opportunities consistent with the housing element for you all to consider at some future date new housing projects in those areas. So it's not the only site, it's one of many. So you'll have an opportunity to look at those. And when the specific plan comes forward, we'll have a lot of those concepts. So you can look at different scenarios, some of which were discussed, whether it's land leases, sales, But the idea is to look at downtown, like the Golden State Airport District, as primary areas to build housing. Of course, we have the mall, and that's being looked at as another location for a lot of housing. So there's a lot of opportunities and an ongoing discussion with you all to see those housing sites.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's, oh, and the city manager had something to add.
If I could, too, Mr. Ramirez did a great job of explaining that. We actually came back to you guys in November of 2024 and explained a lot of this. So there is a staff report talking about how we unbundled. We had to unbundle that housing component. However, we still want that housing. We need that housing in the downtown. So that November 2024 staff report explains that a little bit in more detail if anybody wants to look at that.
And
Thank
just,
you.
And just if I may, Mayor, in follow-up, since the city manager did note it's a 2024 report, you will be having an update on the downtown specific plan in the coming months. So we'll give you newer information so that you can get assurances that, and the community can get assurances that we are strongly and aggressively looking at housing opportunity sites in the downtown, both the city, but as well as the private industry on privately owned lots.
Great, thank you. I think sometimes misinformation can spread like wildfire, so I'm glad we're talking about it tonight. Thank you. Those were my questions.
Councilmember Perez, did you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to follow up on Councilmember Mullins' questions. But first, I just wanted to note, because the city manager brought it up, I know there's been questions about the changing plan. And for folks who maybe haven't or don't keep the 2024 report in the top of their memory, I did ask you this morning. One of the reasons noted was the cost and the inability to truly find developers who wanted to create that project. We are all being hit with those costs. We understand that the price of everything has gone up. And unfortunately, the original project proposed as a public-private partnership was no longer feasible for most of the private sector. It was just not a good deal for them. So we as a city had to pivot. And I just wanted that on the record today for folks who may be listening. That doesn't mean we've lost the housing component. It's still there. We just have to get creative as a city on how we fund that so that we can do it in the future and so that we don't put a project like this on hold forever, indefinitely. So I appreciate staff for looking at new and creative ways to make sure that we put the civic center that's much needed forward and also look at appropriate sites for housing that make it so that we can actually have housing in the future. And on that note, we also got a question about the parking. And now I know the answer to this, but can you tell, for the public's sake, did we look at underground parking? What was the cost of that? And why did we decide for this above ground parking?
I'll let Houston talk about the cost of underground parking, but yes, we did look at subterranean parking. We would have ended up with less parking spaces and more money to pay for it. So I'll let him talk about parking.
One of the first studies that we helped the city work through was where the parking should go. We evaluated both above ground and below ground. The below ground parking is roughly 3 times the cost per stall as an above grade garage. Additionally, there's a major schedule impact to digging a large hole in the ground, excavating, and then developing the garage, which we expected to be another 9 to 12 months schedule extension, depending on how fast we could go. And so with those two things combined, the city felt that the money was much better spent on the library and the amenities instead of burying it in underground parking.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just kind of want to highlight both those things because our city has been very both fiscally responsible and also time management responsible, trying to ensure that this project happens because the city manager alluded to this earlier too, but we are also on a grant deadline. If we don't use it, we lose it. And so I appreciate you taking those grant monies and I'm sure future grant monies that will come to help us build this library into account so that we get it done in a timely fashion and to continue looking for opportunity sites like other parking lots that we have, the old library, et cetera, for potential housing sites. And if anybody out there knows a good housing developer that's interested in those sites, reach out to the city manager. We're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this presentation tonight. I've been looking forward to it. I think a lot of the community's been looking forward to it. Council members asked a lot of my questions, but I do have a few more. So some folks are here tonight to make public comment on this. Are you going to stick around to listen to public comment and maybe reply to any of the questions that they have? Okay, great. And then you already alluded to it, but maybe more specific and pointed question. What will happen to our old library? And especially those who are attached to the library are concerned about what might happen there in addition to its potential use in the future.
Well, again, it'll be part of the specific plan. It could be used for housing or it could be used for reuse. It's, again, a future that has not been determined yet.
And that's a council decision.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then for the parking garage and entry in particular, what will that be the ADA entry location for folks? And where will the disabled parking be?
Yeah, the parking garage will have ADA accessible parking, as well as from all entries, ADA accessible pathways. We want to make sure that was a very clear, important goal from the city. Obviously, it's a code issue, but it's also the city wants to go above and beyond to make sure that everything is ADA accessible from all sides of the building.
Okay. And does that extend out as well to, there's 4 tiers on the external, so does that extend to the 4 tiers externally?
Yeah, it is definitely a big challenge on the site with the 23-foot slope from one end to the other. If you were to just draw a flat plane or a sloping plane, it would not be ADA accessible. So in order to make it accessible, we're going to have to flatten out some portions and then work with the future architect to make sure that there's accessible sloped walkways, ramps, et cetera, all the way up from 3rd to the library. So it'll be certainly one of the bigger design challenges coming up. But we understand that it's a critical problem to solve.
Okay, great. Making it ADA accessible makes it more accessible for everybody, so I really appreciate that. And then I'm so happy to see that in your polling of the community that a cafe was very highly wanted, because that was, for me, number one from the day one. Make sure we have a cafe. It's, just overall, really this project, first of all, thank you for asking for so much input from the entire community. You really put extra effort in to make sure every single group and entity and interest and demographic and everybody's input is considered, and you're continuing to do so, yeah. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your display of the old phone to show just how old our library is for folks who have not seen the inside of the library and how it's constructed. It really is not able to be redone to make it into a new library. And it is an excellent library. I volunteered there for many, many years, and my kids have gone there, and I still go there. And there will be a lot to be missed, but it's also not time. It's time for the iPhone version of the library to be created. And then lastly, that this really, for me, this project, in addition to it being an amazing project and a community project, it's also a representation of the importance of a third space. Both the inside and the outside of it is a third space, and that's a place for our community to come together. And the way that you're presenting it is a design where the community will be drawn to it, will want to come to it, will be invited to come to it. The cafe is a big part of that, by the way. And it will be a place that folks are not being asked to go to, but will be asked, how soon can I get there? So I think that this is a really great opportunity that we're taking. It's a lot of effort, a lot of ask from the community, but you're doing the work, and we're all doing the work, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we are running a little bit behind, so we will take a very short 2-minute break between, which will probably end up being 3.5 minutes. But we'll take a 2-minute break, and we'll come right back. But we need probably to run to the restroom real quick, so don't go too far. We'll be right back.